The Henderson Method, The Road to Algebraic Hell, a short story by Dan McDowell. Tom Henderson taught Algebra II for 20 years at Ridgemont High. He was stable, steady, and had a good handle on the subject, enriching the minds of thousands of students through the years. A natural source for teasing, his distinctive physicality left him vulnerable. From his thick Coke bottle glasses, his slicked back hair, his mustache, the slight belly, and certainly his nasally voice, students never struggled to tease. But from an administrative perspective, he was every principal's dream. He never called in sick. He never clashed with staff. And somehow, he diffused the drama with students and parents, despite significant numbers of student failings through the years. The truth of it was, his calm demeanor was reassuring and steady, and in the midst of considerable adversity, he stood tall, never wavering on the principles he stood for. One November afternoon, Henderson adjusted his glasses, his fingers finding familiarity in the white chalk and its texture.
When we talk about function families, we're not just learning separate equations,
he said, attempting to follow his own curriculum.
We're studying the basic DNA of graphs, understanding how things like the square function, absolute value, and exponential function each create a unique shape and behavior.
He paused, a familiar weariness and fatigue behind his eyes. As he peeked out at the room, it was obvious the class was already glazed over. As for Henderson, he'd been up since 2 a.m., watching a documentary on the manufacturing of aerospace fasteners.
That brings us to the sheer strength of titanium grade 5,
Henderson announced, completely dropping the lesson.
Its superior strength to density ratio means even a minor structural shift or transformation in the metal's molecular lattice can...
He slammed his teacher edition textbook closed loudly to get their attention. The startled and half-asleep students exchanged confused glances. Henderson, lost in the objective reality of factual engineering, ignored the cues of boredom, opting to drone on, rather monotone. Facts were what mattered. Information was a gift he shared. 1995. Mr. Henderson detailed the steps of solving a complex rational equation. Jeff Peterson, older than the others and already carrying the resentment of a soon-to-be office bully, sat in the back. While Henderson labored to write common denominators, Jeff reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, sticky piece of used chewing gum, molded into a tiny pellet, flicking it toward Henderson's desk. It softly landed with a plop, straight into Mr. Henderson's iced tea big gulp. Henderson finished writing, wiped his hands, and turned back to the class. He lifted the styrofoam cup, took a big sip, grimacing almost immediately as the familiar flavor of sweet tea was interrupted by the fast-hardening gum. He suppressed a cough, holding back growing nausea and frustrated glares. He forced a smile.
Right,
he said, clearing his throat and pushing the cup toward the back of the desk.
Let's proceed. Jeff, perhaps you can tell us the first step in simplifying this expression.
Jeff grinned and played it off a little too cool, sharing a fast smirk with his neighbor and shrugging.
No idea, Mr. H. Sorry.
1999. 4 years later, Mr. Henderson stared at his desk, rubbing his stomach. The physical memory of Jeff's antics years earlier was still vivid. He adjusted his focus back to the class, noting they were immersed in a conversation about the new school lunch menu and not listening to anything he spoke about. Quickly dismissive, he shifted back into his lecture, working to re-establish control of the classroom, delivering a pre-rehearsed and slightly witty dialogue. This was something he worked to fine-tune through the years, a way to make his dry lectures more palatable.
A system of linear equations isn't just a bunch of random lines. It's a map where we're looking for the exact spot where 2 or 3 different conditions are all perfectly true at the same time. The single point that satisfies everyone.
After class, a struggling student named Laura Hayes stayed back, dressed in a provocative sweater. She stood beside his desk, leaning in closer than appropriate, her perfume too strong, as she grabbed his arm.
Mr. Henderson,
she whispered, her voice layered.
I studied all night, but this system is impossible. You're just brilliant. The way you explain the math to us, it's amazing, but I can't.
She leaned in even closer, her hand brushing his arm again as she pointed to her assignment. Henderson felt his cheeks flush. He knew she was manipulating him. Her answers were sloppy and incomplete. Yet the appeal to his intelligence, the soft physical proximity, they all eroded his defenses, neutralizing them a little too well.
It's okay, Laura. I see where you struggled with the elimination step.
He stammered, pulling the paper closer.
I'll give you until tomorrow to turn in a corrected version. Just be honest with yourself about the effort you put in.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson,
she said, pulling back. Her charm instantly vanished, quickly replaced by her normal, sassy teenage demeanor. Gathering her books, she left the class without another word or glance his direction. Henderson sat in the empty room, feeling pathetically manipulated and flattered in only the most uncomfortable of ways. 2005. Mr. Henderson swallowed hard, his tie feeling tighter than it should. He finished a lecture about systems of equations and then launched into one final prepared dialogue, his voice straining for authority.
Solving a polynomial is kind of like being a mathematical detective. You're given a complex equation and you have to use all your factoring tools to finally unmask the hidden roots that make the whole thing zero.
Ray Lufkin was seated in the middle of the room, notoriously known for wasting class time and blatant cheating.
Mr. Henderson, sir, a point of fact.
He interrupted, his hand raised just high enough to be seen.
You mentioned the hidden roots of the equation. But if we're talking about truth, I saw a statistic this morning on the news saying that 90% of all math teachers
He paused for dramatic effect.
regularly fail to cite their sources. So before we look for the roots of your polynomial, shouldn't we be looking for the roots of your academic integrity?
Henderson's thick glasses magnified his widening eyes. Any challenges to his factual foundations were challenges to his sanity. He dropped the chalk, and the class let out a gasp.
That can't be true, Ray. Cite your source.
Ray, having successfully derailed the entire lesson, shrugged with a wicked smile.
No idea. Just something I heard. But if you can't be sure of the source, how can we trust you?
Henderson spent the next 15 minutes fruitlessly trying to defend the entire concept of factual data, losing his students, polynomials, and his quickly depleting energy. 2015. The bell rang, loud and jarring. Mr. Henderson stared at the empty chalkboard, reflecting on decades of humiliation. From kick-me signs on his back, glue in his office chair, to the emergence of social media bullying, he'd had enough. He closed his textbook and sighed. For some reason that afternoon, Jeff, Laura, and Ray mocked him in his mind relentlessly, each jeering at him in their own special ways. Defeated and drowned yet again, he searched for a spark, something to help him overcome the struggles. Rising slowly from his desk, he concluded the lesson to teach wasn't Algebra II. It was consequences, and he'd be teaching without any more interruptions, on his own grim terms and conditions. The next day, Mr. Henderson called in sick for the first time in a decade. The calm he projected to the administration was now focused inward. Cured of indecision on how to process the abuse of his students, his sleepless hours proved more useful. He devoted his efforts entirely to logistics, the new way in which he would implement a new sort of education for those who failed to learn or took advantage of him. He purchased heavy-duty security locks and sleep aid medications, later meticulously grinding the surplus of useless to him sleeping medicines into fine, flavorless powders. He spent a full day in the garage, rearranging the bulky tools he never used to reveal an access panel to a sub-level room he'd built years ago but rarely used. It had been intended as a storm shelter and storage, but was now illuminated by the bare fluorescent lights of a classroom. Having snitched a variety of supplies from the school garbage and its various auctions through the years, he dragged in old desks, bolting them down to the floor where they would face a mounted chalkboard. The best part, the newly formed classroom was perfectly windowless and soundproofed, walled in by the surrounding dirt. As his sleeplessness fueled years of rage, Mr. Henderson's transformation was complete. After 3 weeks, Henderson practiced with the same care he once applied to crafting lesson plans. leveraging burner phones and disposable email accounts to attempt the unthinkable. His goal wouldn't be random kidnapping, but rather a premeditated self-delivery, exploiting his students' known vices carried into adulthood.
All right, here we go,
he said, shaving his head and mustache and switching to contact lenses that afternoon. The drastic adjustments in years past would make him virtually unrecognizable. Spending a lifetime inside the structure of the school system, Henderson's vengeance would follow a well-defined schedule. The classroom was ready. There was just one final step, ensuring the students delivered themselves without a struggle and, more crucially, without a clear map of the property location. Jeff Peterson, the self-important manager, remained driven by status, just like he always had. Henderson's customized directions arrived via a text message sent right after he left the highway, diverting him from the main road.
Attention, Mr. Peterson. The primary driveway is under surveillance for confidentiality reasons.
The message read.
Take the unlit service road, Pine Spur Trail, 1.5 miles past the old silo. This is the discreet VIP entrance. Head into the illuminated building.
Jeff, enjoying the pampered treatment, followed the confusing, winding track through dense brush without hesitation. Pulling up to an unmarked gate, Henderson called on the phone.
Thank you for using the secure route, sir,
Henderson said through the car speaker, his voice calm.
Come on through the gate. The building is open. Feel free to make yourself a refreshment while you wait. I'll be there shortly.
Watching from a hidden surveillance camera, Jeff arrived grinning and feeling important. He poured a glass of iced tea and had a cookie, taking a large gulp. The chemical sting was masked by citrus. He took 3 steps toward the doorway, and then his world, the service road, the gate, his ambition, all faded away. Laura Hayes, the now ambitious realtor, believed she was close to a massive commission. The mineral rights alone on the property were a potential gold mine. Her directions, given over the telephone, were spoken quickly.
The owner is fanatical about avoiding people, Ms. Hayes. You need to follow the fire break path behind the old buildings. It's a bit bumpy, but it'll pay off in dividends later. Pull up next to the old garage building. I'll meet you there in a bit,
Henderson explained, inventing details about surveillance and discretion. Laura, prioritizing the potential profit over logic, drove her SUV down the dark, muddy track. When she finally arrived, she was agitated with the grit caked on the sides of her vehicle.
This better be worth it,
she said, stepping out.
It will be,
Henderson promised.
I'm Lee Habers,
he said, shaking her hand as he greeted her from around the corner.
Come on in. The real estate agency left us with some drinks and snacks tonight to close this deal. The deed history, the mineral rights. It's a bit of a hassle. I'm going to need a signature on a couple of things. We've got a full NDA in the secure meeting room downstairs.
He picked up a glass from the table, leaving her with the pitcher and the other glass still empty. She poured a glass.
Why so late? This is just a little weird for me.
Idiosyncratic client. I don't know what else to say.
She took a drink as she scanned the surrounding darkness, trying to mentally map the property lines. The confusion of the drive, combined with a sudden slowness coming over her, overwhelmed her attempts at orientation. Her eyes began to droop, Henderson expressing a faux concern.
Are you okay, ma'am?
The dim nightlights blurred into streaks before she collapsed. Ray Lufkin, the greasy mechanic, was the most suspicious, but his greed provided the perfect blind spot. Henderson's instructions were simple.
Take the long, straight maintenance road until it dead ends. Park facing out. We need you ready for a quick departure when you're done. The car in question is in the garage bay.
Ray followed the rules to a T, pulling his service van down a mile of dark, overgrown asphalt. He turned it around and left the engine running, mostly just focused on easy cash and a quick exit.
Hey,
Henderson said, masking his voice.
Thank you for doing this so late. I will pay an after-hours premium. I just figured it would be easier here than to tow it all the way into town to your shop. I made us some coffee.
He handed him a steaming thermos of strong coffee and a cash advance on the front end.
Start the assessment right away. Help yourself. It'll probably be a long night.
Have we met?
Ray asked, pocketing the money.
Probably seen each other around town,
Henderson said. Ray took a huge swig of the bitter coffee as he started walking toward the garage.
Nice,
He said. He looked toward the headlights of his van, illuminating the path outward, not the dark, confusing road he'd just driven through. The sedative in the coffee took hold quickly as his legs gave out beneath him. While they were unconscious, Henderson relocated them to the classroom. He used their fingerprints to unlock their smartphones and delete any emails or text messages related to their correspondence, later going into their call logs and deleting those as well. Sure, they could reference them on a future bill, but the burner phone would be long gone by the time the bill circulated. The stage was set. Henderson checked the 3 figures, their minds temporarily wiped of the route they'd taken. 3 variables: isolated, disoriented, and secured. Class could now begin. One by one, he assembled the bullies, securing them to desks bolted to the basement floor. The room was cool and quiet, the odor of chalk dust and concrete still very much present from Henderson's recent updates. A long way from the halls of Ridgemont High, the trio groaned their way to confused consciousness, each studying the room and each other in a growing panic. The door was solid steel, bolted shut with 3 heavy brass deadbolts Henderson had installed just for the occasion. As recognition of the security vault-like classroom took hold, Jeff was the first to speak.
What is this place? Where are we?
Emerging from the dark corner of the room, a high, nasally voice cut through the confusion from the front. Mr. Henderson stood before the chalkboard, holding a long wooden pointer, more like one might hold a scepter. Having taken his contact lens out, his iconic Coke bottle glasses shined under the bare bulb but reflected minimal light.
Welcome back to class, gentlemen. And lady, it's Mr. Henderson. Remember?
Henderson said, his voice steady.
We have some Algebra II to catch up on, don't we? Don't worry, this time you'll actually learn the material. And this time, there's nowhere to hide the roots of your mistakes or cheat.
Jeff, Laura, and Ray, still foggy from the sedatives, realized they were shackled to their desks. Not with handcuffs, but heavy-duty construction zip ties looped through the chair backs and secured tightly around their wrists. Mr. Henderson tapped the long wooden pointer on the board.
We're not here to study for a final, Ray,
He said, his voice far too calm considering the surroundings.
We're here to finally learn the high-level concepts you never grasped: integrity, effort, and consequence.
He turned to the board that already held 3 specific equations tailored to each of their past abuses. Question 1. Mr. Henderson pointed to a complex graph on the board, a simple quadratic function that had been violently shifted and reflected.
Jeff,
Henderson said, his voice dropping.
you always enjoyed shifting the curve of my daily routine. Now you'll determine the exact transformation matrix that defines the absolute value of your cruelty. This equation represents my life. You added poison, you introduced a constant that vertically shifted my nausea for days. You will calculate the precise value of that constant, the number of days I was sick, and then prove how your behavior reflects the equation's maximum point of disruption.
Jeff, the office bully, was panicking.
This is insane. I don't remember math. You deranged lunatic.
Henderson didn't raise his voice. He simply lifted the pointer.
Your lack of memory, Jeff, is no defense against the objective facts of mathematics. Start working. If your answer is incomplete, you will find out precisely what kind of vertical shift a human body can tolerate.
Jeff grabbed the pen, his hands shaking so much that the ink skipped across the page. Question 2. Next was Laura. The board displayed a complex system of linear equations with 5 interconnected variables.
Laura,
Mr. Henderson continued, addressing her chilly stare.
you skillfully manipulated systems of variables to get the output you desired. The variables here represent effort, integrity, merit, flattery, and compliance. You'll use substitution or elimination to find the single honest point of balance that satisfies all 5 conditions simultaneously.
Laura tried to regain composure, attempting a rehearsed sigh.
This is meaningless. I'm a professional. I don't do high school homework.
No. This is the equation of your life, Laura. You found the solution where flattery equaled merit. But here, You've got to find the solution set where effort equals merit. You will solve the system, or you'll realize that the cost of an unbalanced equation is total elimination of your personal freedom.
Laura, seeing finality in his eyes behind the glasses, slowly picked up her pen. The sight of mathematical rigor of her own past manipulation rapidly broke through her professional facade. Question 3. Finally, Ray. He was assigned a high-degree polynomial, a chaotic, multi-termed equation that required synthetic division and the quadratic formula.
You were always willing to accept a false answer, Ray.
Henderson stated.
You argued facts that you knew were lies, wasting the whole class's time to hide your cheating. Now you must find the real and imaginary roots of this polynomial. Every root you find represents lies you once told in my class.
You're some kind of nut.
Ray stammered, his playful demeanor long gone.
That's impossible.
It's only impossible if you stop searching for the truth.
Henderson countered, leaning close.
You'll use every tool. I've given them all, the division, the factoring. This will help you find the real roots of this problem, but if you miss one, it's a failure to find the fundamental truth of the equation, and at that point I will conclude that you are a prime suspect in being intentionally dishonest.
The three labored under the silence of the room as Henderson piped in a grating white noise through a Bluetooth speaker and the constant threat of a hit with the wooden pointer. Hours passed, their collective tears blurred with the ink on their assignments. They calculated not just numbers, but the weight of their own teenage malice. Slowly and painfully, they began to work in a focused manner. And it was in that very moment, breakthrough began to occur. Under the intense, terrifying pressure of Mr. Henderson, ever eager to help, a strange thing happened. They finally learned what they never could. Ray meticulously used synthetic division. Jeff correctly calculated the transformation constants, and Laura, using her sharp adult logic, found the perfect point of intersection for the 5 variables. They solved problems and internalized core concepts they'd once mocked. Their final answers represented a moment where they truly understood the consequences of their actions. Henderson watched them finish one by one, his face easing up to that familiar, easygoing demeanor they were accustomed to from years past.
Correct,
He finally whispered, tapping the board softly.
You understand the high-level concepts?
Henderson smiled. Years of resentment, nauseating struggle, and intellectual frustration all came unwound. He walked over to the steel door, unbolting it with a loud clank, undoing each of the deadbolts with a special set of keys.
I want to make sure you understand the importance of an honest baseline before I release you back into the world. Now, we can all start over.
Henderson said, studying the struggling trio.
This lesson is over.
He flashed 3 small syringes, each pre-filled with a clear liquid.
I don't plan on needing these,
He said.
Just be better citizens, please.
After each agreed never to tell a soul, he undid the zip ties, a gun in hand, allowing them to leave on the promise they'd remain in algebra hell if they did tell. Pretending he just pinched them a little hard, he poked each of them with syringes in the back. As each walked toward the top of the stairs, they passed out. Loading them into the back of his truck, he dropped them off in the city park and left. He later returned each of their vehicles to random places across town where they'd later be found. Tom Henderson climbed into bed differently that night, his obsession with facts far quieter. The constant gnawing agitation within him was gone. He closed his eyes, and for the first time in 20 years, he fell into a deep, uninterrupted sleep. Jeff returned to his office, a kinder sort of guy, looking out for his coworkers. Laura continued to thrive as a broker, but didn't play people or exploit them with her charm. At least not in the same way she once had. Ray rebranded his shop, Honest Ray's Mechanic Shop, where he regularly provided services well below market norms, opting never to rip off clients again. The now bald and clean-shaven Tom arrived at school the following Monday. A new student named Jimmy Herkles couldn't help himself teasing Mr. Henderson, just like the rest.
Okay, so let's get into this. We're doing a deep dive today on something called The Henderson method.
Right. It's quite the story. A really bizarre, almost meticulously planned act of, well, pedagogical reckoning, you could say.
Exactly. We've got sources detailing this algebra teacher, Tom Henderson, absorbed 2 decades of just awful student behavior.
Yeah, torment is probably the right word. Before he decided, okay, time for a final lesson. Using advanced math, no less. And what's striking initially is Henderson himself.
Yeah.
His persona. Rock solid, never sick, always calming things down.
The constant in the equation, almost.
Precisely. But underneath, sources say he was being, well, systematically worn down, demoralized.
We really need to look at how he was humiliated, those specific incidents.
Because they became the variables in his final equations. That's the fascinating part.
Right. So sources mention his appearance was mock, thick glasses, a bit of a belly. He struggled with classroom control.
Yeah, apparently he'd sometimes drift off lecturing about, like, the sheer strength of titanium grade 5 or something. Lost the room.
An easy target. But the cruelty wasn't just random teasing, was it? It was specific. Engineered.
Definitely. Let's take the 3 key ones mentioned. Jeff Peterson, back in 95.
The gum pellet.
Yeah, flicked a sticky, chewed-up piece of gum right into Henderson's big gulp iced tea. Physical act.
And Henderson just choked it back, suppressed the nausea, kept teaching.
It was about powerlessness, wasn't it? Making him feel helpless in his own space.
Then there was Laura Hayes, 99. Her angle was different.
Psychological manipulation, purely. Using this breathy flattery like you're just brilliant.
Getting inappropriately close, too.
Yeah!
Breaking down his defenses.
All to get an extension on some sloppy homework she hadn't earned. She taught him his boundaries meant nothing.
And the third one, Ray Lufkin, 2005. This was an intellectual attack.
Right in the middle of a polynomial lecture, recites some fake statistic, just completely false.
To undermine Henderson's credibility, his academic integrity.
And it worked, temporarily. Wasted 15 minutes of class time while Henderson had to defend basic facts. Each attack hit a different foundation.
So after all that, years of it piling up, something finally gave.
He snapped. Called in sick. First time in 10 years, the sources say.
But not to rest. Oh, no.
Oh, it was prep time to plan the final lesson. The transformation was apparently total.
The logistics are pretty intense. He found this old sub-level storm shelter, rarely used.
Turned it into a classroom. Soundproofed it, no windows. Bolted old desks to the floor. Serious setup.
And changed his appearance completely. Shaved head, no mustache, contact lenses, unrecognizable, became this figure of authority.
And he had to get them there. The former students, now adults.
He used their adult weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
Greed, status.
Exactly. Burner phones, customized directions. Jeff, the manager type, got lured by a discreet VIP entrance on some trail.
Laura, the realtor, was chasing a huge commission on fake mineral rights.
And Ray, the mechanic, got promised an after-hours premium, cash up front. Classic greed trap.
And once they arrived,
Quick work, flavorless sleeping meds, finely ground, mixed into drinks. Iced tea for Jeff again, maybe? Coffee? Pitcher drinks for the others? Tailored traps, perfectly executed.
okay, so they wake up, zip-tied to these bolted desks in this bunker.
And there's Henderson, maybe holding a pointer, ready to teach. This is the core of it, the algebra of consequences.
The math problems weren't just hard, they were personal. Confessions written in equations.
That's the genius, or the horror of it, the customization. Jeff, the poisoner.
He got a quadratic function, described as violently shifted.
And he had to calculate the exact transformation constant, the number representing the days Henderson was sick from that gum incident.
So solving for x meant facing the cost of his actions, the physical toll.
Wow. Exactly. It's not abstract anymore. Then Laura, the manipulator.
She got a system of linear equations, 5 of them.
Variables like effort, integrity, flattery, merit. Linear systems demand a single, precise solution.
She had to find the honest point of balance, where effort actually equals merit. No room for manipulation.
It forced objectivity on her, and Ray, the liar who wasted time.
High-degree polynomial. Synthetic division required.
Synthetic division breaks things down, right? Deconstructs the polynomial. He had to find all the roots, real and imaginary.
Each root representing a lie he told. He had to mathematically dismantle his own dishonesty.
Brutal. But effective, apparently. Under that pressure, they finally got the concepts they'd mocked.
It wasn't just fear, though, was it? It sounds like the math itself made them see. The equation was their character flaw.
A true internalization. High-stakes learning, indeed.
And once they solved it, once they understood, he let them go.
Yeah, wiped their memory of the location somehow. But the lesson stuck.
The sources say they changed, Jeff became kinder, Laura less manipulative.
And Ray even founded Honest Ray's mechanic shop. Can you believe it?
Anderson finally got some deep, uninterrupted sleep. Closure.
The change was real. Immediate.
So, the big question this leaves us with, for you listening, what does this extreme personalized reckoning tell us?
These adults learned complex math, concepts they had failed at for years, in hours, because failure meant facing themselves.
Does true learning, especially about ethics, effort, integrity, does it sometimes require stakes this high? Stakes traditional systems just can't or won't provide.
That's the provocative thought, isn't it? Henderson's lesson was over, but that question lingers.